www.aapkiawaz.co.uk, also on Radio Garden apps.
इंसारी वेलफेयर ट्रस्ट यूके के ज़ेर एहतमाम मीरपुर आज़ाद कश्मीर में गूंगे और बहरे बच्चों की मुफ्त तालीम व तरबियत का इदारा कश्मीर इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ स्पेशल एजुकेशन कायस आपके तावन का तलबगार। अंसारी वेलफेयर ट्रस्ट यूके, बाकले बैंक, सोट कोड 201188, अकाउंट नंबर 50877735, वेबसाइट awtuk.org। वसीम द टाबार, ताजा समोसा चाट, फ्रूट चाट, दही बल्ले, गोलगप्पे, सब्ज चाह ते पहली बारी आलम रॉक रोड है तू।
Alaikum, good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Community Talk Show. I'm your host this evening, Mohammed Amin. Inshallah, between now and 9 o'clock, we will be having a conversation with our guest here in the studio and also a live call-in from another guest about a project that's happening in the community and what that project can do. As you know, we've always run this theme about issues concerning in our community, issues that are affecting with people who live here, Pakistan, Asian subcontinent, Azad Kashmir, and also we covered last week in Pahari about the issue of Kashmir, and we talked about the independence of Kashmir, and a number of names were mentioned, and these names in particular, one of them was somebody called Muhammad Maqbool Butt, marhum. And today's guest is a familiar face to everybody. Assalamu alaikum ji. It's my brother here, Liaqat Lone from Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front. The purpose of our quick discussion this evening is just to elaborate a little bit that we discussed last week, but more importantly, just give you a quick overview of the names that were mentioned. And the whole idea is we want to give you the information that's available and information that people are asking. So without further ado, let me go on to my guest here, Liaqat Lone Sahab. Assalamu alaikum ji. Welcome to my show, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me on Radio Aapki Awaz. And I must appreciate the community efforts and the opportunity I have been provided to come here and talk about Kashmir and talk about the father of the nation, the national hero, Maqbool Butt Shaheed today.
Thank you. Last week we mentioned in our conversation three individuals, Amanullah Khan Saab, Abdul Khalik Ansari Saab, and Muhammad Maqbool Butt Saab. Today's session, we just want to have a quick resume of basically who was Maqbool Butt.
As I mentioned last time, Maqbool Butt Shaheed was born in Tregam, Indian occupied Kashmir, district Pulwama, and he's completed his early education in Indian occupied Kashmir. Then he and his family migrated from Indian occupied Kashmir to Azad Kashmir in early 60s, and when he migrated from Indian occupied Kashmir to Azad Kashmir, he has been involved in different educational institutes, and he was at Peshawar University, and in the meantime, while he was doing his studies, he was he did his master in Urdu, and then he was involved in the newspaper, and this was actually to just to promote the Kashmir issue. And in the meantime, he was not satisfied because of the situation in Indian occupied Kashmir. So he decided to go back to Indian occupied Kashmir and start making an awareness in between the Kashmiris residing there, and the freedom struggle, how they can, on the ground zero, if the people are not ready for it, then it's no point to doing all the struggle around the globe when on ground zero the people are not doing anything about it. So he decided to go back to Indian occupied Kashmir, and then that where he was arrested by Indian authorities, unfortunately, and they put him in prison. Then luckily he escaped from the prison, come back again in Azad Kashmir, and then from both sides, when unfortunately when he come back in Azad Kashmir, he was interrogated in this side of the Jammu Kashmir state, which is known as Azad Kashmir. The place he was interrogated was Dulai Camp, Muzaffarabad. And this was an unfortunate with this gentleman who has been dreaming about the national freedom for all his life. And he was kind of rebellion since his childhood. When he was at school, and as long as he grew up, and when he migrated to Azad Kashmir, he traveled all around Azad Kashmir, Gilgit-Baltistan, and he was a dynamic personality. Where in Azad Kashmir he met with all these gentlemen I mentioned last time, like the great Kashmiri leader Abdul Khalik Ansari, and then Mr. Amanullah Khan, and some other colleague, G.M. Mir, Dr. Farooq Haider, and so many. There's so many names. If I start enlisting them, your show will finish, but the list will be still carry on. So
Well,
this was a brief, introduction about Hazrat Maqbool Butt.
Thank you very much for giving us a brief introduction. I applaud you for giving me all that information. Now, what's going through my mind was this was an intellectual individual who migrated from Indian occupied Kashmir to Azad Kashmir. Why would he just not say, well, I'm happy, let's enjoy my life, that's not my problem, let the authorities do whatever they want to do. And yet, he was I think he was an editor in the Peshawar newspaper, but when you read the information that's available out in the public domain and what have you, this individual could have enjoyed a lovely, comfortable life, and yet he devoted it for the cause of Kashmir. Why?
Because the leaders think nationally, and people, maybe me or somebody else, they would just think in their circle. And Maqbool Butt was a unique personality. He was thinking for his nation. He never thought about his own family. He knew when he was going back. His friend, I will quote here, Dr. Basat Khan from Peshawar, when I met him in Luton 4 or 5 years ago, he told us about the story of Maqbool Butt Shaheed. He said when he left, and he knocked the door at midnight, and he spoke to his friend Basat Khan Sahib. He said, look, I'm going, and please look after my kids and my family. And Dr. Basat said to him, Maqbool, please don't go. This is not good for you and for your family. He said, Allah will look after them, and I have friends like you who look after my family, but I have to go. I decided I need to go. And then he went back to Indian occupied Kashmir. Why he was trying to attempt again and again? Because there was a complete silence on Indian occupied Kashmir side, and he migrated this side. He thought maybe the conditions are favorable here, but unfortunately it was still a deadlock on this side as well. But because 70% of the population and the area is under the Indian occupation, and his family was there as well, and he decided to motivate the Kashmiri, the indigenous. He was very much into the Palestinian movement. He was in that time, in 60s.
Also, the other thing is, brother, is like in the 1960s, anybody who would talk a dream of an independent vision for Jammu Kashmir just was not allowed, and anybody who would talk about a vision for an independent state. It just wasn't the done thing, because you get straight locked up in prison. Is that correct?
Is correct. Yes, there was no freedom of expression or freedom of speech. There was no social media like we have this time. I'm here in your studio today, and I can be watched all around the globe. And the people who are talking about independent Kashmir, it was thought to be a crime. Like where you are talking about independent Kashmir. Oh, Khud Mukhtar Kashmir. People who are whispering. I know my relatives, my father, my grandfathers, when they would talk about Kashmir, they was like whispering to each other, look, this is what's going to happen now. And this was the situation. But all these hurdles could never stop Maqbool Butt Shaheed and his colleagues. They carry on with their missions. If Maqbool Butt wasn't there for, he wouldn't challenge the Indian authorities, and Abdul Khalik Ansari wouldn't make an awareness in the public in Azad Kashmir. If Amanullah Khan wasn't there in Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan to teach the youngsters, to tell them about what's the independence and what's the real roadmap towards freedom or Azadi, we would not be able to make any progress in this freedom struggle now. I'm proud to say, look, this is truth. It's a harsh reality that Kashmir is still under the occupation. But one thing which could have been done is, like, now all the world know about Kashmir. The world is concerned. But the problem is, because we have, there is global trade involved. Unfortunately, we have big economies like India, China, and then other neighboring countries like Pakistan. They have their own socio-economic factors involved. That's why, unfortunately, the Kashmiris are suffering. But I believe that if we carry on with the mission, one day we will be successful with the dream of Maqbool Butt Shaheed, the dream of Abdul Khalik Ansari, and the dream of Amanullah Khan.
Thank you, brother. Viewers and listeners, you're listening to the Community Talk Show. I'm your host, Mohammed Amin. In the studio here, we've got Liaqat Lone Saab from Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front. We're talking about having a general discussion about Maqbool Butt, who he was, where he grew up, and his mission, and why was his mission. As I've said to you before, I would say, yeah, I'm comfortable. I've got a good job. Thank you very much. Why should I even talk about a struggle for independent Kashmir, whereas these individuals gave up their lives for this cause? And as you can see, what's happening in Europe with the Western superpowers, with regards to what's happening around Ukraine, a lot of these issues, what you got to remember is, as brother says, there were socio-economic reasons, but you can relate that today, because if this issue in Europe happens, our UK utility bills are going to go through the roof anyway, but that even is going to affect our gas supply. So this is what the brothers are making reference to with regards to social economic issues, and people have their vested interests. Achha. Just to cover off another point was, you mentioned where Maqbool Butt's remains are buried in the Thahar jail. You keep on protesting annually around the 11th of February. Some 38 years later, why do you feel that you still haven't got your mission?
Okay, I'm glad you asked me this question. Unfortunate for the Kashmiri nation is, it's not only the Maqbool Butt Shaheed whose remains are buried in Tihar jail. Same thing happened to Afzal Guru, who was hanged in Tihar jail, and his remains are buried in Tihar jail. And if you see the occupiers, they never, they try to give the oppression as much as they can. But I know we have been protesting for 38 years, and I know we could not be succeed in to the mission that we get the remains of Maqbool Butt Shaheed and to hand over to his family so they can bury it according to their wish. I know we are not successful, but on the other side, what is the other option? We sit down uh, quietly and do nothing about it. That's another side of the picture. When 11th February comes, it we since 1984 we protest in London. It's not only London; we protest all around the globe, and to raise our concerns on behalf of Maqbool Butt Shaheed and his family, and we show the solidarity not only to Maqbool Butt Shaheed and Afzal Guru Shaheed, but we also pay the tribute to our national heroes. We pay tribute to them for their great sacrifice for the nation, and I believe and I have a strong belief that one day we will be successful. What India thought in 1984, they will kill Maqbool Butt Shaheed, and the voice of for the freedom is gone. So nobody will talk about.
So basically, what you're saying is by killing Maqbool Butt Shaheed while he was in prison, they basically will silence the voice of the voiceless. They will silence the voice of the Kashmiris.
If the killing or hanging somebody or arresting somebody and putting them in the prison stop the freedom struggle, then Nelson Mandela have been in the prison for more than 27 years. Nelson Mandela was the national hero for the black community. Maqbool Butt Shaheed is the national hero for Kashmiri community. And our leaders, like I mentioned their name, they have struggled for all their life. I know their families suffered. We will carry on their mission. We will never stop. And I believe that resistance is existence.
And it's lovely that annually you are protesting. The awareness of the Kashmir issue is still out there. What would you like the Indian authorities to do with regards to your protest now and say, come on, enough is enough? What would you like them to do this year? And our message goes out to the world here on Radio Aapke Awaaz. So people are listening both on the Pakistan side and the Indian side. So what is your message to the world?
The month of the February is very important for the nation, the Kashmiri nation, especially for those who believe on the independent ideology of Jammu Kashmir state. So the day is very much important for us as a Kashmiri to raise our voice, not only for the Maqbool Butt's remain, but to expose the brutal action of Indian authorities. You see, more than 100,000 people have been killed. There is a complete lockdown, and the school-going children are the victim of pellet guns. If we don't go and protest in the streets of London or the streets of Birmingham, how would the community know that what's happening in Kashmir? We have two options. Either we keep quiet or we raise our voice. So my request and my appeal to all the diaspora, especially the Kashmiri community, and as a whole, all the freedom lovers, all the peace lovers, all the human rights activists, I would appeal them to please come and join us on the day from 1:30 to 4:30 p.m. in front of Indian High Commission to raise our voice and to show the solidarity with the 20 million Kashmiris living in Jammu Kashmir state or around the globe. And I would request all the Kashmiris, especially in Birmingham, I know it's a lot of Kashmiri community, I will request them on 11th of February. We are going from Birmingham to London around 9:30 a.m. from 488 Olam Rock Road, and I request them all, please join us 9:30 a.m. from 488 Olam Rock Road towards London, and show your national spirit, show your solidarity to the brothers and sisters and the innocent children in Jammu Kashmir Strait under the siege of Modi regime and under the complete life threats and the lockdowns.
Before we wrap up our first half hour, I just want you to firstly thank you. Anybody who wants to know more information about your demonstration, pick up points from around the UK, do you mind giving out your contact number, please?
Yes, I would love to give them my contact. Before I give my contact detail, I would request all those Kashmiris who are living in United Kingdom, please, on the day of 11th of February, if you can't join us, please share on the social media how you can participate. You can share the videos. You can upload Maqbool Butt Shaheed's picture. You can raise your concern on Twitter, on Facebook, on TikTok, on any medium where you can raise your voice. You should do that. And the people who are able to travel, please come and join us. My contact details is 0788 6621 880, and we are booking the transport for the people who wants to join us from Birmingham, from Nottingham, from Luton, from Leeds, from Bradford, from Slough, from London, and from Manchester, all the major cities of United Kingdom. And please don't forget the 11th February is very important day to raise your voice for the voiceless Kashmiri nation.
Shukriya ji, thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming in at very short notice again, and I know you already have got engagement this evening, and mashallah, we will be in touch. We will follow the process, and please come back and give us feedback of updates. Viewers and listeners, once again, thank you very much for your time and effort today and listening to my guest here, Liaqat Lone, discussing the Kashmir issue, Maqbool Butt, a brief insight to Maqbool Butt, his background, his motivation, and why did this protest is carrying on for over 38 years. Now, in my next session of the program, we will be covering a couple of points, but let's go to a break, and then we'll be back in the next few minutes.
This is Radio Aapki Awaaz.